Yes, it's Charley Danger, private detective. Charley Danger, defender of the Constitution. And now, Charley Danger, private detective.
Get this and get it straight. Crime is a sucker's road, and those who travel it today are more cunning, traitorous, and evil than ever. They got big wallets and big ideas and big plans, and they don't like anything or anyone that gets in their way. I ought to know. I'm Charley Danger. The life of a private shamus has its ups and downs, but lately I'd been getting under the wrong people's skin, and life had gotten a little unpredictable and complicated. In fact, my companions and I had all been put through the ringer lately, and we were lucky to still be alive to tell about it. That is, all of us except for one. My dear friend, Mr. Shurelock Homes, fell to his death from the Bombay of a Boeing B-17. The image of Holmes fallen through the air like a lead balloon had been permanently burned into my memory. You gotta admire a guy like Holmes. It had been truly an honor and a privilege to know the man. But then people come and people go in life, and even more so in my line of work. In this business, you gotta keep on going, because if you don't, you're sure to wind up crazy or dead or both, and you can take that to the bank. I remember sitting there out in the desert with Phleye and Jane and Lassie, and nobody said a word. Right then I wanted to go back to the Big Apple and tail a wayward spouse, or locate the stolen jewels, or prove the butler had nothing to do with it. I was missing the common everyday kind of robbery, blackmail, or murder that a private dick gets used to. I wanted to go back to my regular routine, because lately things were getting a little bit too complicated. We were in over our heads. There were too many octopuses with too many tentacles in a monstrous caper that broke every law in the book. Just because we managed to snuff Mariachi in his plans, that didn't mean we made much of a dent in the ultimate plan for a new world order. No, this thing was just going to get bigger and uglier. I looked over at Jane, and she looked back at me.
Light a lady's cigarette?
Any time, baby.
What are you thinking about, Charley?
I lit up a lucky strike. I was just thinking about how I'd like to wake up from this nightmare and go back to being the average private eye solving the everyday caper.
I know what you mean.
Yeah, she knew what I meant all right, and so did Phleye, too, at that point. As we sat there watching the smoke rise and the sunset, we knew we had plenty of troubles to deal with. We were on foot in the Arizona desert with the feds closing in on us, and we had none of Holmes's disguises to cloak our identities. In other words, we were sitting ducks. About the only thing we did have was plenty of dough. We had landed not 30 yards from the wreck of the Goonie Bird, so we were right back where we had started from in Chapter 3 of Border Disorder.
Temperature's gonna start dropping now.
I'm heading for the Goonie Bird.
We had all been through hell, and we were exhausted. We climbed up inside the Goonie Bird, made ourselves comfortable, and went to sleep. The next morning, we woke up and started walking. Where we were going, we had no idea, but at least we weren't standing still. We just kept trudging on for what seemed like miles in the growing heat. On and on and on we marched until our feet were hurting and our mouths were parched. We traversed over a number of hills till burnt feet and dry mouths were the least of our ills. Without water, transportation, or relief from the sweltering heat, by mid-afternoon our feet were killing us and we were half dead from thirst and dehydration. That's when we heard the engine, and when we looked up in the sky, we saw a helicopter. We were trapped like rats with nowhere to run. We just stood there and watched as it landed in front of us. A door opened up and a man stepped out. He was a bit on the heavy side, looked to be about 50-something, and had an oriental look about his pudgy face. He looked right at me and bowed at the waist. "You are Honorable Charley Danger?" I had my gun on him. "Who wants to know?" "Allow please to make introduction. I am Honorable Detective Charley Chin." I put away my heater. "So what brings you all this way to find little old me?" Chin smiled. "Your friend at Flamingo Bar and Grill very concerned about yourself and companions. Send Charley Chin to rescue them from dreadful situation." "What do you know? Good old Joe." "Suggest that we leave now, please. Can make discussion later." He didn't have to say it twice. We climbed aboard the helicopter and were off. It turned out to be an old Sikorsky H-19, according to Phleye, who was more interested in the helicopter than in anything else. While his attention was devoted to Flapjaw and with the pilot, Jane and I got the lowdown from Chin. "News of big explosions in desert all over mainstream media. No explanations except to point finger of suspicion at Charley Danger and companions.
Dirty, rotten weasels.
In slaying one monster, you have incited wrath of other evil monsters lurking in darkness. One must remember, guilty men always point finger elsewhere." I lit up another lucky strike. My detective's nose is smelling an ulterior motive, and I'm looking at you, Chin. Why don't you spill the beans and tell us what really brings you to this neck of the woods? Chin smiled. "Humble Charley Chin requests assistance of Honorable Detective and companions in case of extreme importance." He took a picture from his wallet and passed it to Jane. "This photograph of Dr. Heinrich von Totenkopf. This man, highly regarded as world's leading expert in science of mind control. Humble Chin investigating reports that doctor performing experiments on state of Nevada."
Of course. That would explain how Harry Reid got reelected.
Charley Chin en route to a small town in desert where suspect doctor engaged in research on unwitting population. Request please accompaniment in uncovering of twisted plot. Harold Nutzenberg yawned, and he scratched his big pot belly as he plopped down in front of his brand-new, big-screen, high-definition television set. A cooler beside his recliner held 6 cold ones on ice, and a bowl of hot buttered popcorn sat handy on a table nearby. Today was the day of the big football game, and Harold had been looking forward to it all week long. He switched on the TV set. At first, all he saw were swirling colors and odd geometric shapes. They seemed to dance and pulsate. And then he began to make out throbbing, rhythmic forms that intertwined and then focused to become naked, writhing sexual images. As the moaning, grinding, fully engaged sexual organs filled the screen, pounding rap music and low-frequency vibrations reverberated through his entire body. Eyes wide and bulging, he stared vacantly at the screen as the images pulsed and danced and flashed with increasing rapidity, drawing him deeper and deeper into its video depths. The pounding music became one continuous, all-consuming, vibrating hum. The flashing images became a swirling whirlpool, and suddenly he was plunged into the abyss. With eyes transfixed, body vibrating, drool dripping from his open mouth, Harold's mind was sucked from his head and absorbed into the television screen. Harold Nutzenberg ceased to exist, except as electronic impulses within the television matrix. As images of commercial ads and reality shows flashed across the screen at an incredible rate, Harold's mindless body vibrated with increased intensity. Blood dripped from his nose, smoke curled from his ears, and then suddenly the top of his head blew like the lid off of a pressure cooker. It splattered goo, goo, splattered goo, splattered goo, splattered goo, goo all over the room. Through the front door, 2 men wearing white lab coats entered the house. One switched off the television set as the other scribbled notes on his clipboard.
How long did that one take, Joe?
The other man checked his wristwatch.
Just under 60 seconds, Bob. Once those microwaves kick in, it takes no time at all. We can now pop their lids in less than a minute. Excellent. That'll make Totenkopf happy.
The security camera focused on Dr. Heinrich von Totenkopf as he walked down the long, empty corridor with his briefcase full of reports in hand. His footsteps echoed as he made his way down the hall towards a red door and the two black uniformed guards. The door opened, allowing him to pass through and into a dimly lighted office. He stopped before a huge oaken desk at which a man sat reading some papers by the light of a single desk lamp. After several minutes, the man looked up from his papers and motioned for him to be seated.
"You are doing well since your delicate operation?"
Yes, man leader. Since having my brain transplanted into the body of a woman, I now feel totally complete.
Good, good, yes. You may now make your report.
I am pleased to report that we have made a major breakthrough with the microtelelobotomizer prototype. With this machine, we can control the people's minds completely.
Excellent.
It can also extract their minds from their bodies, and the microwaves can explode their heads in less than 60 seconds!
Excellent. We will soon have the power to perform microwave television lobotomies on millions of unsuspecting sheep.
Yes, mein leader. No matter what we tell them, they will swallow it hook, line, and sinker.
Do you see? We will soon control a vast army of television zombies to mindlessly support our policies and to unquestionably do our bidding.
Yes, mein leader. And we will control them all through their brainwave matrix.
I must congratulate you, Dr. Totenkopf. You have done well.
Yes, mein leader. And I've never felt more liberated.
The Sikorsky swooped down from the sky and landed in a vacant parking lot on the outskirts of any town. Yes, I said any town. Located in a remote desert of Nevada, it had sprung up from CIA-planted seeds as a controlled environment, a test bed for the government's secret population control programs. It looked like any other town in any other part of the United States, except that all of the people had been planted there like guinea pigs in a laboratory. Population exists in a captive state of consciousness, Chin explained as we touched down. Observe, please. He pointed to several of the townsfolk as they scurried along their way, texting, talking into telephones, listening to MP3s through their headphones, or playing with their iPods. None took notice of the big whirly-birds landing. Consciousness focused elsewhere.
You can say that again. These people are totally unaware of what's going on around them. Nobody's paying any attention.
If that's the case, we got nothing to worry about. We can hide right out in the open. Only so, must remain vigilant and exercise discretion when engaging citizenry. Also, am certain that town and people in it closely monitored. In fact, suspect our arrival already noted. We piled out of the big whirly-bird and waved as it took off, swooped up, and flew away. It would be back in 3 days. That was all the time we had to conduct our investigation. We stood there in the middle of the parking lot, staring at each other until we realized how stupid we looked. We've got to try and blend in with the locals, be as inconspicuous as possible.
We can split up, check the place out, then meet back here at sundown.
Excellent suggestion. Exploration of mysterious town may reveal much interesting information. Chin, Jane, and Lassie marched off in one direction, while Phleye and I took off in the other. I started looking for the nearest bar. We passed several people on our way along the sidewalk. Every one of them had a cell phone up to their ear, and they were carrying on conversations as they walked along. On the street corner, a young black kid was dancing, grooving along to some rap tune playing through his headphones. "Hey, kid," I said to him. Pants low, a butt's worth of boxer shorts exposed in all their glory, the kid kept on going through his moves. I waved at him. He looked right at me, but acted as if he didn't see me at all. He just turned around and danced himself right across the street. He damn near got run over by an SUV whose driver was texting and eating a hot dog at the same time. Cameras were everywhere. Microphones, too. Phleye looked at me and I looked at him, and we both realized that we had better start acting like the sheeple around us or stick out like a sore thumb. Big Brother was watching. So we split up. I continued on down the street in search of the nearest bar, while Phleye reconnoitered in the opposite direction. We'd meet back in an hour. I didn't have very far to go. The flatulent duck was just a few doors down. As I walked in the door, I was surprised to encounter an ATF agent standing there looking at me.
How do you do, sir? Have you consumed any alcoholic drinks thus far today?
The man asked. Well, no, I haven't.
You aren't carrying any concealed weapons, are you?
Well, no, I'm not. At that point, the guy started patting me down. What the hell? A funny smile came over the guy's face as he pulled my .38 out of my shoulder holster.
Well now, what do you call this?
He said to me as he held it in front of my face.
Looks like I'm gonna have to place you under arrest, pal.
I had to think fast. I picked up the nearest chair and busted it over the guy's head. He crumbled right down like a rag doll, and I picked up my .38 from the floor. As I stuffed it back inside my holster, I noticed that I'd become the center of attention. The patrons and the bartender were staring at me in wide-eyed terror. I had to think fast again. We're shooting a scene for a new TV series, folks. Be sure to watch for the new reality show, Undercover G-Men, on CBS this fall. To my relief, they all went back to whatever they'd been doing before, and they didn't give the matter a second thought. That is, except for one asshole that ran around the room waving and shouting,
Look at me! I'm on TV! Where's the camera?
I got the hell out of that joint as fast as I could. Flight Commander Willie Phleye walked down the street holding a pack of cigarettes up to his ear in an effort to blend in with everyone else. The guy monitoring the street cameras picked up on it right away.
Hey, Mac. Check this joker out,
he said to the guy monitoring a set of screens next to him.
Not now, Bubba. I got an attack on a bar stool at the Flatulent Duck.
Where? Show me.
Bubba Joe Melner lost interest in Willie Phleye and crowded Mac Pringle's console. Mac flipped a switch, and the image of Charley Danger smashing a chair over the ATF agent's head appeared in full color, complete with sound.
That's cool. Play it again.
Don't be so stupid. This is an act of terrorism. I gotta track this guy.
Well, where did he go? What did you do, lose him? You better pick him up on the streets.
Mac started flipping switches as numerous images flashed across several monitors, but none revealed the elusive insurgent.
You lost him, didn't you?
Don't you worry your sorry ass, Bubba.
You lost him.
I'll pick up on him soon enough, you'll see.
Nah, you lost him.
When Willie Phleye decided to pop into the local grocery store, all was not exactly as he expected. The first things he encountered were the TSA agents and the naked body scanner in the entranceway. People were lining up, waiting their turn to pass through it without a second thought, as if it was nothing more than a minor inconvenience. They stood there in line, chatting on their cell phones, with the same distant, disconnected look on their faces. After about 15 minutes, Phleye made it to the head of the line. He tried to look just as distant and disconnected as everybody else.
I say there, Andy, look at this here fella all dressed up like some kind of flyboy, or a bomber pilot, or something like that there kind of stuff there.
Sure enough, Kingfish. I'd say that looks mighty suspicious to me.
You know there, Andy, I do believe we better give this here guy the full treatment. You know, to be on the safe side and all that kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
Now you let me do all of the talking, and I'll take care of this here whole situation.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
You stand by real close and be ready with that there taser in case some things gets out of hand, you know.
Why, sure enough, Kingfish. Suddenly, Willie Phleye found himself having to empty his pockets and show his driver's license, birth certificate, and Social Security card. He had to take off his shoes, submit to a pat-down and a cavity search, and walk through a metal detector, and then through a naked body scanner. And then finally, he had to submit to being fingerprinted and giving a DNA sample. After finally getting past Andy and the Kingfish, Phleye entered the grocery store, where he stood for several minutes scratching his head, trying to remember why he'd come into the store in the first place.
Yes, you've been listening to Charley Danger, Private Detective. Tune in next time for the next exciting episode of Charley Danger, Private Detective.